everybody. Welcome to the Mayday Podcast. It's so good to have you here. On today's show, we have Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman from the great state of New Jersey, the greatest state in the nation, and not just from any part of the great state of New Jersey, but from the best part of New Jersey.
Is it central New Jersey?
I'm so glad you asked, Michelle. In fact, it is central New Jersey, the Narnia of the Garden State, the greatest place in the greatest state, in the greatest nation on earth.
So they say. So they say.
If you haven't been, you don't know. And frankly, if you have been and you don't acknowledge, we don't need you there. Anyway, so happy to have Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman here. Can't wait for this interview. Here we go. It's so wonderful to have you here today. You are my hometown Congresswoman. I grew up in your district. My parents still live in your district. You are from the Narnia that is central New Jersey, which exists. And I know you agree with me that it exists. So thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm delighted to be with you, Julie. And I do agree that central Jersey exists. And I live in it right now.
Exactly. And if you don't know about it, you are missing out. And we don't want you there if you don't believe that it exists. Listen, I wanted to ask you before we get right into this, because we have seen some pretty awful things happen in the last few days. We had a horrible anti-Semitic attack on Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. We had a horrible massacre happening up in Rhode Island at Brown University. And then, of course, on Sunday night, we had the horrible news that Rob Reiner, who is a storied actor, director, philanthropist, progressive, was murdered it seems that he was murdered by his son. He and his wife were killed in California. I wanted to just ask you about this because you're down in Washington. You deal with this administration all the time.
Yeah.
The President of the United States took this opportunity to weigh in. And he weighed in ways that I think are just indescribable. I think for anybody like you who's been in public service your whole life and understands what being in public service is about, I don't want to necessarily quote what he said at length, other than he blamed his death effectively on the fact that he was anti-Trump. And I guess I have to ask you, because you've been in this your entire adult life. You've been in public service your entire adult life, first as somebody who worked in government and state government, then again as somebody who served in the legislature, somebody who served as the chairwoman of the Democratic State Party in your home state of New Jersey, as somebody who's been a longtime Congresswoman. How do we even deal with somebody like this? How do you deal with somebody like this as the avatar for this country that we all love and he represents?
So a couple of things. Let me say that every day I wake up, someone has shot somebody somewhere.
Right.
Sometimes it is one-on-one, or someone has been killed. Sometimes it's one-on-one, sometimes it's one-on-three, sometimes it's organized, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's targeting, like in Australia, and then sometimes it's not. And then you have the kind of tragedy that the Reiners just went through. And the president tried to make it all about himself. And I don't know where the bottom is as it relates to Donald Trump's inhumanity. He has shown us such vile behavior and language on so many different occasions for so many different things. It's like he doesn't know how to be human. And so this last post, I was, getting myself ready for this. I was just coming off the road and I was thinking, good Lord, I wish I could say that it's an AI posting, that the president of the United States of America would never say anything as vile and as narcissistic as he did with regard to the death of the Reiners. But he probably did. And I don't know. I pray every night. I've prayed for his soul, but I also ask God, I don't ask for anything bad, but I ask you to remove him. Because I think he's made our country very dangerous. I think he's isolating us and putting us internationally in very dangerous position, Julie. And I also think that what's happening state by state, particularly blue states that he has a grudge against, the things that he's doing just create all kinds of chaos and violence and disruption. And that, and at the same time, he's not lowering costs anywhere. He's not making the economy any better. He's not making us feel good about, being American. And he just he's disgustingly vile. And I call him evil. And people say, Bonnie, evil is in the Bible. And I go, yeah, I know. That's what I'm talking about. Evil, that kind of evil.
Why do you think that cruelty has become such a defining feature of this moment? Do you think it's singularly Donald Trump, or do you think it's him and his behavior has sort of unleashed the gremlins on the rest of us?
Well, first of all, I don't think he cares about America. And I don't think he cares about Americans. I think the only thing that motivates him is more money in his pockets. And he's monetized the presidency unlike we've ever experienced. So let me just start with that. So Donald Trump just by himself is soulless and vile. But he also is an instrument for 2025 and the Heritage Group. And he's a good landing pad for the Stephen Millers and the votes and people of that nature who don't really give a damn about anybody in this country or this country either. So I don't think it's any singular thing. I think it's him being himself, allowing other people who just care about the 1%, the very, very wealthy, making them wealthier and healthier and everything else, and be damned with every single person else in this country. And at the same time, not being frickin' fracking incompetent. Because if they think that isolating America from its allies is a healthy thing, and at the same time suck up to China and Russia and other countries that have these dictators, I don't know why he thinks that makes us safe. It makes us stupid and vulnerable, and that scares the hell out of me.
Let me ask you this, because you come from a pretty storied family, and your dad was a trailblazer. You certainly have been as well. But you've seen this before. You've lived through the civil rights movement in the 60s. Your family was involved in it. And I have to ask, are we in a worse place now? Because you think about the 60s and you think about in the 50s, certainly you think about even before that, Jim Crow and all of this awfulness that was going on in this country. And yet I can't say things are great, but incrementally, it was Martin Luther King. He didn't coin this phrase, but it said so famously, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Do you still feel, as you approach retirement, and I know that this is your last term in Congress, do you still feel that's true? Or do you just feel that we have had such a setback with this president that it's hard to make the case that the arc of the moral universe does bend towards justice in this environment?
I think right prevails at the end of the day. And it doesn't mean that we don't go through really hard times. And this is the hardest and harshest times we've ever experienced, even in during our civil rights days. There wasn't a president of the United States that was saying that whole countries are shithole countries and we don't want anybody brown to immigrate to this country. We only want white folks to come here, and let me give South Afrikaners, white South Afrikaners, all this opportunity to come here. I think this is this is unprecedented. I also think that the violence as far back as on the ellipse in January the 6th and the last at the end of the last presidency, I think this is unprecedented because it gives people permission to be violent. It tells people that unless you look like them, which is principally white and male, that anything other than perhaps your wife, has no value. So what you do to them is there's always an excuse for it. You see masked agents on the streets of our cities, and you know from anybody that has taken history classes in high school, not even college, knows that that's not what happens in America, but it's happening here. So I think that ultimately right prevails, good always triumphs over evil at some point. I just don't know how much we have to go through. And I will tell you this, that the resettling of good versus evil and the reset for us as a community that loves and shares and respects and really appreciates diversity in people, we're going to have a lot to go through to get there. But I think we get there. I think we get there starting in the midterms. I think you saw a piece of that on Tuesday about 3 weeks ago. I'm really upset that the Senate wouldn't let us kind of stew in that goodness for a moment before it caved in to the healthcare debate. Yeah. But at least it happened. And we see people all across the country casting different votes and saying different things, that they didn't sign up for this in particular. So I believe in human nature resetting itself so that we are moving into a kinder period of time, more respectful. But we've gone through a lot. We've lost a lot of lives unnecessarily, and we're going to go through some more.
Julie, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I've been thinking about that quote all day. I've been thinking about it all weekend. And I think it's so hard for people to have hope in moments like this. And I think that hope is that last thing that we have to hold on to, because without it, this is over. And so how do you stay hopeful, Congresswoman? Like, how do you get through the day and you keep going? Because it's inspiring to listen to you talk. Honestly, you say it how it is, and it is refreshing.
So I have a lot of faith. I'm married to a minister. Mm-hmm. I'm very involved in my Bible study. I share my scriptures and my thoughts, the messages of the day. I believe that the same God that's always been on the throne is on the throne right now. And so I pray. Mm-hmm. And I'm serious when I tell you that I pray to God, just remove Donald Trump. Take J.D. Vance along with you, because
that we're stuck with Mike Johnson. You sure about that?
Yeah, think about J.D. Well, Johnson is we don't have to worry about Johnson too much longer. I'm going to tell you.
You think? Tell us why.
Nah. First of all, I think we're leveling right now. We're right where we are right now, probably where we're going to be until the midterms. Mm. Although I think people are going to mess with him. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to mess with him. And there are other folks that probably want to mess with Johnson, because Johnson is nothing but a tool. Mm. I mean, it's not as if he thinks about this stuff. He just does what he's told. And it's shameful that the House of Representatives in particular has sort of like unilaterally on that Republican side given up any macho or any Musk that they have against standing up on behalf of this, of our Constitution and what we should be doing. That we've just given in, and I don't even understand what they're afraid of. Are you afraid of not being elected? What is it that you could possibly be afraid of, that you would give up your responsibility, your oath of office? And so Johnson, he doesn't worry me, because I think our president is cognitively impaired. I think he's not going to be giving too many serious suggestions to or points of requirements to Johnson anytime soon. I really think that the president has serious cognitive impairment. And he also may have some physical impairment. So I'm kind of like, he can say stupid things. But I also tell you what I do see. I see some folks in Congress standing up. whether it's the Epstein stuff, which was like so much in your face that there was no way you could avoid it. I mean, I used to tell them, you know who the targets are, from who the targets were with Epstein? They were your pretty daughters, your young daughters, the young ladies who left home angry at you for even 1 minute and became very vulnerable to being trafficked. So, I see that there is a fraying that is taking place. And the interesting thing, Julie, is it's a fraying of America first or MAGA, making America great or taking America first. And I got to hand it to Marjorie Taylor Greene, someone that I hand very little to, just making that distinction for people to understand.
That's, it's interesting that you say that because, and you had mentioned earlier that the Senate had not let you bask in that 2025 victory that we were all excited about in New Jersey and in California and Virginia, and even in places like Mississippi and Georgia. And of course, then the Senate kind of caves, the Senate leadership. Do you think, as you're leaving the House, do you think that our leaders on either side of Capitol Hill are up for this task? Do you think that they know how to handle this precise moment that we're living in, that they're the leaders that we as a party deserve, or do you think we could do better?
So I think in terms of the issues, what's important, and speaking to those issues, my leadership on my side of the aisle is definitely where it needs to be. Do I think that they need to fight sometimes a little harder, use a little harsher language from time to time? That's an issue of meeting the moment that I think that they have missed from time to time.
What's the problem there? Why can't they just call it for what it is? Like, you have no problem calling it for what it is. Yeah. I got to give, I got to give Marjorie Taylor Greene, listen, she's a wackadoodle, but she calls it the way I think she calls it the way she sees it. You've got people out there who are calling it the way they see it. I'm not at all comparing you to her, but you've never had a problem calling it the way you see it. And there are people, actually, now that I think about it, it's people like Jasmine Crockett, it's others who have no problem calling it the way they see it. Frankly, members of, especially the female members of the Black, no problem calling it the way they see it. And then you have our leaders. And I think, and not just our leaders, but people who've been in Congress a very long time who are so overly programmed by their consultants, and I say that as somebody who is one, that they don't know how to speak English anymore. I mean, what's the problem there?
So when I think of leadership, I think leadership has a tremendous responsibility and feels a tremendous burden to protect our frontliners.
Right.
And so they're always trying to carve out space that they can still be Democrats in, but be able to communicate with their districts. And I think we need to do a better job of that. Because at the end of the day, we're Democrats because we believe in certain things. We believe in the Constitution, a woman's right to choose. We believe in education is a way to, succeed. We believe in jobs and unions and an environment where you have clean water and clean air. And so we need to figure out, how do we communicate our willingness to fight for the cost of living, fight for healthcare in every one of our districts, that helps them to understand that we come from a big tent, but we have fundamentally the same values. Yeah. And I think that sometimes we're overly cautious in protecting our frontliners, as opposed to educating the people in those districts to understand what's happening here in DC and how it impacts them.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the problem that Michelle and I talk about constantly is Republicans don't pull their punches, right? Like, they don't care that Mike Lawler or Tom Kaine or any of these people in the frontline districts might be having problems. They bring the voters along with them. Yeah. They put out their agenda and then they dare voters to oppose it because they know how to communicate. I hate to give him any credit. Trump's a great communicator. He's insane, but he's a great communicator. And yet we're sitting here kind of, I think, in this defensive crouch, afraid to actually voice our opinion for fear of alienating some, pygmy person with pink hair between the ages of, 18 and 18 and a half. And so therefore we're afraid to do that, as opposed to just calling it like what it is. What you just said makes all the sense in the world. This is what we stand for. If you stand for those things, come with us.
Yeah.
What's so hard about saying that?
It's courageous, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you say that, Michelle, but it isn't so much courageous as it's just being authentic.
Yeah.
Just go on and say what we need to say. For instance, we voted on two resolutions. One was about Charlie Kirk, but they had language in there about freedom and justice and all that other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So leadership voted for that because felt it needed to give the frontliners some protection. Then we had another Republican messaging resolution that had to do with socialism. Instead of our spending time explaining to people what they're talking about is Medicaid and Medicare for all and housing and education and environmental issues, that's what they're talking about in this resolution. Our leadership felt that it needed to vote on it because of the word of socialism. And my position was, no, we should have educated people on what these Republicans are really talking about, because they're forever playing catch you. And I don't think that serves us well, Julie and Michelle, because people then get confused on what they can depend on as it relates to us. And I know that Hakeem and Catherine and the rest of them are going to fight like the Dickens for healthcare. I know that they're fighting for cost of living issues. They're fighting for our environment. They're pushing back on all the important things. I just don't think people have a clear understanding of just how hard we are working and pushing back.
Because we can't communicate.
Well, right. I was like,
I said communicating, and we spend an awful lot of time trying to explain the very difficult. Instead of just finding out what's the message that really resonates with people, and let's say it over and over and over and over again, because that's what Republicans do.
They're very, very good at it, unfortunately. But I one of the last things I just want to ask really quick, because you've been such a powerful voice for women's rights, in particular for Black women in this country. And one of the things that keeps me up at night, in addition to everything else, is abortion rights and rights to contraception for women. And as we're seeing across the country in states with abortion restrictions, Black women are being disproportionately affected by this in the most horrific and deadly ways. And it almost feels in this moment that women have gotten left behind because there's so many more important things, quote unquote, more important things than this, especially after Dobbs. And it almost feels like when we reelected Donald Trump, it was like the country said, well, oh well. But they're coming for all of it. They're coming for all of it. And I just want to know what you think about this and what you see coming next. Is it contraception? Is it fetal personhood? Like where do you think that the wind's blowing with women's rights as it pertains to reproductive rights next?
So I think that they're trying to make sure that every avenue of a woman getting either having the ability to make the decision about having a baby or not when she's pregnant, they're trying to get at everything from you can't travel to we're gonna like probably monitor where you're going and how you're going there and why you're going, which is an invasion of privacy that concerns me tremendously. But they're also trying to make sure that you can't get access to the medication that you might need in order to actualize the decision that you make with regard to your pregnancy. So they stick things into the appropriations bills. They'll stick something into some other bill. And all of a sudden you'll see, well, A, that has nothing to do with the bill, but B, it is further denying a woman's agency over her body. So I don't think that they're ever going to let that go until I think we take control over at least the one house. And I'll tell you, I'm old enough to be Pollyannish, but I think Republicans are messing up badly right
Mm.
now, and messing up particularly as it relates to the healthcare insurance and the ACA and just affordability issues that I think even the Senate could be in play if we don't screw it up ourselves.
Just to follow up on Michelle's question, and then I promise we're going to let you go. But look, we also have a Supreme Court that is much less about the law these days than it seems to me to be about being a handmaiden to the MAGA agenda, whatever it is. Do you support expanding the court if we have the opportunity to do that? Because it feels like no matter what potentially Donald Trump tries to get away with, the court allows him to do it. And then conversely, when it's a Democrat, and I mean, could you imagine if Barack Obama tried to do 1/20th with this particular court of what Donald Trump is trying to do? I mean, they would have laughed him out of, he'd probably be, you know.
He would have never had those personalities on the court.
Of course not. But imagine if imagine if he came back tomorrow, as you know, or some other Democrat came back tomorrow, Biden or anybody else with that court. But the question for me, I guess, is with this court, can we do anything? Do we need to expand it? What do you support? No?
I don't think that we can do anything with this court, because I think that this court is a court that was conceived of by the Heritage Foundation and other folks, and the 2025, and they walked this thing through for years now. I think that we should expand the court. I don't think we should touch it until we're in the presidency and have control of the houses. I think we also should have term limits. I mean, I think Clarence Thomas, who's been a disgusting member of the court from the very first day he sat on it, is too daggone old right now to be there. And I can't believe that the two members of the court that came from Mercer County, New Jersey, or who they were, like, how did you find them in my county?
Justice Alito is from Trenton, New Jersey. I can't.
That's so disappointing.
And so was
or Hamilton, I guess. Scalia.
And Scalia, right? In fact,
Wow.
Scalia's aunt was my French and Spanish teacher in high school, and she was a lovely lady.
Hey, Rosemary, I know Rosemary Alito. I bet you do too. She's not bad.
Yeah.
It's just
so. I think we need to do whatever we can to have the court understand its responsibility is to be true to our Constitution, not to expand the president's power and authority and lack of accountability. I mean, where'd that come from? That came out of the clear blue sky. None of us ever expected that, to say that he has immunity to do anything and everything. And now I think that the Supreme Court sees what that is to this country and how troubling it is. From what they're doing to boats in the Caribbean, to what they're doing to deporting people who have citizenship or have a card to be here, separating them from children, putting military in our communities and masked agents in our communities, at the same time monetizing government, making money just by being there and making sure that people can pay you to, all they got to do is give you a contribution and you'll give up the soul of America. That's what's happening right now. And people need to understand that that's just not a conversation. That's what's happening at your kitchen table. That's why your groceries are more expensive. Your clothes are more expensive. That's why it's hard to find enough housing. That's why you got problems even having access to clean water and clean air. And you also can't afford healthcare, but you need it. You need it badly. So he's making us sicker, sadder, and meaner. And that's not the America that I wanted to be a part of. And that's certainly not the America that I try to serve in any of my various positions. And I think that people are going to push back. because he's hurting them personally.
People always thank public servants for their service, and it sounds kind of trite, but from the bottom of my heart, as somebody who grew up in your district, whose parents still live in your district, who has known you since the mid 90s and is just, your career is storied. You have been an incredible representative. I don't know how else to say it in the true sense of the word, of the people you represent. You are going to be so missed on the Hill. If there were 434 more of you, we would be unstoppable. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie. I've just tried to be a public servant, and I really think that being a public servant is a commitment. It is not a job, and it is not a title. And if anybody wants to come serve down here in Congress, you really got something to experience.
Yeah.
God bless you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonnie Watson Coleman just made a lot of news, which I thought was interesting. A lot of news.
First of all, can I just, I feel like I have to say this, you know, because we only have so much time with the people who come on our shows, and I can't always get everything out, but I know I complimented her once to say how refreshing and how much I appreciated her honesty and authenticity, but I really, 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 really meant it. It is so rare that you see people serving in Congress who are authentically themselves. And, you know, I went through watching speech after speech after speech of hers, and every single time, she was speaking truth to power, holding people accountable in a way that only she can do in her own voice. And I think that that's why people love her. It's why people appreciate her. It is a tremendous loss that she's leaving, but I also completely understand why she's leaving. You know, she was sworn in January of 2015, which was just 6 months before Orange Julius came down the golden escalator, and then served for 10 years up until now. And my God, what a journey in that 10 years she's seen, you know?
Let me tell you something about her, because I've known her a long time. And sometimes you have people on the show who you don't know, or you know just by name, or you kind of tangentially know. And then there are people who you know because you know them. And I'm very blessed that she's somebody I know, not just because she's my hometown congresswoman and my parents still are represented by her, but I knew her well before she ran for Congress. I don't want to say that she's always had like no fucks left to give, but it's kind of true in the sense that she's always kind of been a truth teller. Like she doesn't pull her punches. She has always been a trailblazer. You know, when I first met her in the 90s, when she first got to the New Jersey General Assembly, my God, that's how long I've known her. She was an assemblywoman. She was, I think, maybe one or two women of color down there. And I don't remember if that's how many there were, but certainly not many. And then she became the chair of the Democratic State Committee in New Jersey, which I have to say is really hard for somebody.
Oh, no doubt in my mind.
A woman, and particularly a woman of color, and especially Black. And she was excellent at that. And then she became a congresswoman, and she ran in a primary, and won in a very closed kind of environment that New Jersey was at the time. It's gotten somewhat better now, but not much. And she's just kind of done it. I don't want to be like Sinatra, but she's kind of always done it her own way. And I think as she's now leaving.
Hoboken native Frank Sinatra.
Hoboken native Frank Sinatra. Hoboken, of course, is not from Central. It's not in Central New Jersey.
But from your great state.
It is from the great state of. He is from the great state of New Jersey, but he is from North Jersey. So we will let Congressman Rob Menendez, who represents Hoboken, talk about that when we get him on the show. But she, you know, especially now, I think if she's leaving and leaving on her own terms, and she's always done things on her own terms, I think she truly is kind of unplugged, although she's never not been that way. She's just always calls it like she sees it. And I think that's something that's really refreshing. And especially for somebody who represents a super diverse district when it comes to viewpoints. I mean, she represents everything from Trenton, New Jersey, the capital of New Jersey, to Princeton, which is obviously an intellectually, 'cause it's got the
Yeah.
university there,
Yeah, those
we,
little
we,
college
we,
towns always
yeah,
have
we always
their own type of people,
yeah, we always joke that Princeton, probably like Cambridge, Massachusetts, is the one Democratic club where you meet there and they want to know they have their own foreign policy agenda, and you're like, no,
Right.
but
They want to see your SAT scores.
yeah, like, oh no, they literally have their own foreign policy agenda, and you're like, you're a municipal committee.
Right.
So,
It's just,
but
it's like, so, because I I
yeah,
know the Democratic clubs. I mean, not in places like that, but it's just like,
same thing. The Upper West
yeah,
Side is kind of like that, but
I
yeah,
totally get it. I'm like, of course, of course.
yeah, and then everything in between, right? You've got the suburban, towns, you've got the urban
Mhm.
centers that she has, and so she's got it all, and she's kind of had to balance it all. But to her
Yeah.
credit, ever, she's never had to compromise her views. She's never punted. She's never
Yeah.
pulled her. She just kind of is where she is. I remember having this conversation with her. We didn't get to it today on the whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict,
Mhm.
because she's been incredibly outspoken
Mhm.
uh, on behalf of Palestinian rights, and she's been incredibly outspoken against how Israel has conducted this war. And
Mhm.
she represents certain parts of her district are in tremendous disagreement with her about that. Tremendous
Yeah.
disagreement. And I remember having this conversation with her, and I said, listen, I don't necessarily agree with you on where you are in this issue, but what I respect tremendously is that you just call it like you see it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
people don't respect that, then that's up to them. But I mean, I always have, and she's always been the person that's been that way. And she's not, as I said, when we interviewed her, she's not the person who will sit there and listen to her consultants
Yeah.
look at focus groups and say, well, there's this one
Right.
cohort in this one part of your district that's going to be offended by this, and therefore she just
That's what gets us in trouble. You know what I mean?
gets in trouble.
I think that she's the example that should be set and should be followed for Democrats, that you don't need to fit into like some little box or some little mold and try to be something you're not and speak in a way that's not your voice. She, to your point, has shown up as her authentic self and has never wavered. And
It's
she
who you are.
is in a district that is very diverse in viewpoints, which means that you have to be somewhat of a moderate, or at least sensible in speaking to all of those viewpoints while also being true to yourself. And I think that she's been able to do that successfully in a way that, even, again, to your point, if you disagree with her, you at least can respect the fact that she sticking to her guns about a
Yeah.
lot of things.
And
And
yeah, and the one thing we never got to with her, which hopefully she'll come back and we can get to,
yeah,
is
so I had like a long list of questions.
yeah, but the one thing that I want to just raise, and I know it's hard to see when you have somebody who's sitting in a little box that you're interviewing. She's not a big woman. She's not a
Mm,
tall, she's a petite woman,
mm,
both from a height and otherwise perspective. I only raise that because she was one of the 3 members of Congress down in Delaney Hall in Newark, New
mm.
Jersey, who were accosted by ICE. And she was jostled. She is,
Yeah, I remember that. I remember
yes,
watching that
yes.
video,
And she
and you
was,
pointing her out. You were like, "She's like 80 years old. What are they
yeah,
doing? What are they
yeah, yeah,
doing?"
yeah. She was jostled. She was manhandled. Um, the fact that this administration is bringing charges against LaMonica McIver,
Yeah.
one of her colleagues, for doing nothing more than trying to protect not just Bonnie, but also
Mhm.
trying to protect Ras Baraka, the mayor of Newark, who they were trying to arrest. And that it's LaMonica McIver who's getting charged
Mhm.
and indicted for that, and not ICE for trying to
Of
do
course.
what they were doing to Bonnie Watson Coleman.
Mhm.
Is a crime in the true sense of the word. And
Yeah.
we did not get to that with her because that's, she's talked about that at length
Yep.
already, although I'm sure as things progress and
Yeah.
LaMonica McIver's case winds its way through the courts, although Alina Habba will not be the one prosecuting that case anymore. But, just bear in mind that this woman is unafraid. She's unafraid.
Yeah.
She showed up at Delaney Hall along with 2 of her colleagues to do her due diligence as a member of Congress, as the law permits them to do.
Mm-hmm. They were going to
And
do like a walkthrough, right? Or
they did do a walkthrough, and they did do a walkthrough. And after that is when all the trouble began.
yeah.
And, or I should say, I think before that, the trouble began. Then they ended up doing the walkthrough anyway. And then Barack got arrested, and they followed him, I think, to where he had gotten arrested. But she's just a powerhouse, and we need more. I really meant what I said. Listen, we never bullshit on the show, as people know. We really, if we had 434 more of her,
oh, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation, because we'd be off doing something else that's not this.
Yeah, that would. Yeah,
You know?
I mean, she's fantastic, and
Yeah.
she is retiring at the end of this term. There are any number of people running for her seat.
Do you see anyone now? Maybe you can't say this or not, because I know you work in New Jersey politics, so maybe you can't speak to this, but do you see any front runners in this race, or anyone that you think is
There are several
standouts?
There's several. I'm advising one of them, so I don't want to.
Oh, okay, so you can't. Okay.
Put my finger in the sky. I'm happy to talk about it, but I don't think it's ethical.
No. I got you.
This platform to do it, but I will also say that she is. She's going to be a hard act to follow. She's going to be a very hard act to follow.
Big shoes to fill.
Big shoes to fill. Tremendous shoes to fill. So to everybody who joined us today, thank you so much for watching. We have about, I don't know what, 6 months left. No, my gosh, more than that. We have about a year left.
Yeah, a little less than a year.
With her.
Actually, no. Well, till the election, but a whole nother year of her service. Yeah,
we have another year of her service.
When are they sworn? Is it the 1st or 2nd of January?
Yeah,
3rd?
they're sworn
Something like that.
January. Yeah, so early January 27th. So watch for her next year. And to people who did not believe me about Central Jersey, my friends, you got it straight from somebody who represents it.
An authority figure.
You heard it here. Middlesex and Mercer Counties, New Jersey. It's not South Jersey. It's not North Jersey. It is the beautiful part of New Jersey, the best part, Central New Jersey.
Things I did not know about these controversies until I met you and Tara and Joe, because I was like, New Jersey, New Schmersey. I don't know. I drive through it on my way to other places.
Clip it, send it to Tara and Joe. You heard it here from a member of Congress who represents it. Clip it and send it, my friends.
I will.
And you, when the weather gets nicer, will be treated to Julie's tour of Central New Jersey.
All right. Is that down the shore? Is the shore there?
Oh,
where is that?
Don't embarrass yourself. The shore is the shore. The shore is the shore. The shore
I've
is.
Never been.
It's
I've never
the
been
shore.
down
There's
the
North
shore.
Jersey, there's South Jersey, there's Central Jersey, and there's the shore. Oh, there's also Western New Jersey. It's a whole. New Jersey is just. I will. You know what? When we're done doing our Mayday tour of New York City, we're going to do Julie's tour that Michelle's going to come on of New Jersey. Okay. Great to see everybody here. Join us every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on the Mayday Morning Show.
Live.
What?
No, I'm saying like the morning show is live.
Live. Oh, yes. Live.
Yeah. Just like we pre-recorded the podcast, but the morning show is live. So please come and join us live and get in the chat, and you can ask us questions and participate in all of that. And just because, I always think that that's like a unique thing that a lot of other channels might not offer. So we're there, and we do it live, as they say.
We will leave you with I can't do it.
As Bill O'Reilly said, we're going to do it live.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Do it live. Thing sucks.
5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today.
Bye, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.